So in the last video, I did the rundown on Warner Brothers and the entertainment aspect as far as the motion pictures, but today let's dive into the music industry. So Warner Brothers, Warner Music Group specifically, is a parent company to a lot of the labels that are currently in the hip hop industry, right? And one of their earlier labels that they took over was the Rhino Entertainment label, which was the distributor for Roulette Records. And Roulette Records was ran by Morris Levy. The label had known ties to New York City mobsters. Levy ran the label with an iron fist. Levy was the key financial backer for the rap music label Sugar Hill Records, which was founded in 1974 by the husband and wife team Joe and Sylvia Robertson. Sugar Hill released the first top 40 rap song, Rapper's Delight, in 1979. So they tried to buy Levy out, which they ended up doing, but I think they ended up selling it later on down the road anyway. So it was the first black label, but they didn't keep it that way. In 1995, Rhino Records came back around and they purchased all the released and unreleased masters owned by the Sugar Hill label. In 2002, the company Sugar Hill Studios was destroyed by a fire. So all the master tapes, all their platinum records was destroyed reportedly in a fire. So that's real suspicious. Like trying to just erase that black ownership history and legacy. All right, so who is Morris Levy? An American entrepreneur in the fields of jazz clubs and music publishing in the independent record industry. Levy was the co-founder and owner of Roulette Records, aka Rhino Records, founding partner of the Birdland Jazz Club and the Roulette Room. He was a prominent subject of investigations into organized crime in the music industry and was convicted of extortion shortly before his death. Levy, who went by Moshe or Mo, was described in Billboard magazine as one of the record industry's most controversial and flamboyant players, and by Variety as the octopus for his far-reaching control, disproportionate to the size of his companies in every area of the record business. AllMusic described him as a notorious crook who swindled artists out of their old royalties. Levy falsely took writing credit in order to receive royalties, enriching himself at the expense of many of his signed artists, especially black R&B artists.
Fort Lauderdale, Florida, February 1980. The decomposing body of a man named Big Nat McCullough is found in his home with the back of his head blown off. Mafia Music is not just the title of an album by correctional officer turned rapper Rick Ross. Mafia has infiltrated the music industry from day one. In fact, it helped build up the music industry into what it is, from rock and roll to rap, but especially in R&B music back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And a guy named Morris Levy, who was Nat McCall's one-time mentor and boss, was perhaps the music industry's biggest gangster of his era. Nat McCall was Levy's business partner, bodyguard, and protege. And Big Nat would have never been knocked off without the go-ahead of Morris Levy and his Genovese Mafia backers in New York. Big Nat McCullough was Levy's right-hand man and vice president of Roulette Records, as well as the owner of a tiny R&B music label backed by Levy named Calla Records. Morris Levy is infamous for stealing the publishing rights of quite a few artists. He stole about 30 to 40 million in Tommy James's publishing royalties. And think about this: infamous gangster, black heroin kingpin Frank Matthews, Mr. Big, the one who got away with it. Well, $30 million that Tommy James had stolen from him back then is worth about $100 million now. Well, that's about the same amount that, or maybe more than Frank Matthews stacked and fled with. And he was the biggest drug dealer in the country for a couple of years. So that's how profitable a corrupt, mafia-backed record label was back then, and perhaps is now.
Today, there are more than 500 stations programming 15 minutes to 24 hours a day to the black community. More than 100 of these stations devote their entire broadcast day to a black format. Almost all are owned by whites. There are several in the Washington area.
On Progressive 96, WHUR-FM.
Here from OK 100.
Right here on Wing Radio.
Of editorial opinion with WOL.
WOOK, which adopted a black format in 1946, is still a leader today among local black stations. However, management feels that the station's black identity and success are results of appealing not just to a black audience, but to a general audience through black music.
I think a mass appeal station, a good radio station, is the first thing that we try to create. After we've done so, and as a part of doing so, we try to become a black station. We do so with black performers and playing pretty much exclusively black product.
OK 100's format, called Sound of the City, gives the station its urban identity.
We find that by concentrating on this image, it's a programming.
Yeah, he said it right there. It's a programming now. Especially with the way music is going nowadays, they want to keep us in a low state of mind, low frequency. And these companies, they target these young artists who are like actively in the streets and doing things and get them caught up. They put life insurance policies on these rappers and they kind of enable them to be in drama and getting caught up. So we'll dive into that next episode, and we're going to really get into the hip-hop history and rap history and how these people try to influence that energy.